All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Trivera Tip Tuesday. In case you missed it, our last Tip Tuesday was part 2 of how sales and marketing can work together to develop more and better sales leads. So if you really want to understand how this relationship can help you build your business, be sure to check that out. This week, I am talking with Ivana Skoko about the results of a recent McKinsey survey on B2B sales behavior due to COVID and what you can do to your website to respond to these buyer trends. So I am Christina Stetter. Ivana, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Ivana Skoko, and my focus at Trivera is on client SEO and PPC.
Wonderful. So obviously orders like COVID and the safer at home order that we had here in Wisconsin really changed a lot of things for a lot of people. And there have been a lot of studies about the changes in consumer behavior related to e-commerce, home delivery, homeschooling, all sorts of things like that. But there hasn't been an awful lot of talk about how this has impacted the B2B sales world. And at Trivera, we work with a lot of clients in a lot of different industries, and we've really seen a lot of significant changes, and especially, I think, with our B2B clients, a lot of significant opportunities. So it was really great to find this McKinsey study that validated the things that we were seeing on a much smaller level. Don't you think, Ivana?
Yeah, it was really good to see information validated, like buyers are no longer willing to accept less from their professional B2B online experiences than they are accustomed to seeing in sort of their everyday personal experiences as consumers. We actually saw results from another study too that showed suppliers who provide exceptional or really great digital experiences to their buyers are more than twice as likely to be chosen as a primary supplier than those who provide poor digital experiences. And then the other great thing to see was something that we've been seeing in the online space for a while in terms of quote unquote getting it right, which was delivering the 3 things that buyers value most, which was speed, transparency, and expertise.
Yeah, I think that finding totally ties into, like you said, something we've been talking about for a while, and a concept that Google has really been emphasizing very publicly for the last couple of years, which is something called EAT. So Ivana, can you explain to everybody what is EAT?
Sure. So we all know that Google has lots of algorithm updates on a yearly basis, and EAT is not necessarily an algorithm update on its own, but it's sort of an ongoing process that Google uses to refine sort of quality standards so they can ensure that people are taken to the right page, or the right pages are ranking basically, and then so people can't really game the system. What it stands for is expertise, authority, and trust. Expertise is really your knowledge in a particular area or topic. This comes down to not only knowing the information that you are putting out, but also that you're understanding how to best communicate that information to your audience and how you're delivering that information to them. And then authority is telling us that you're not only an expert, but your name or your brand become known for those relevant topics that you're talking about. So other experts or authority websites are in your vertical are using you as sort of a source for relevant information. So you're becoming the authority in the space. And then trust really covers anything that is sort of like a safety or security attribute. It's basically an indicator that you are who you say you are. So it's like a clear contact information about your organization, an easily accessible privacy policy page, making sure your website domain is secure. All these things are trust indicators to Google.
Yeah. And Google has, like I said, publicly stated that they care about these aspects of the website and has actually released their search quality evaluator guidelines. So you can see what it takes to establish high EAT. And that's super rare for Google because Google does not like to share the thinking behind its algorithms, does it?
They're a little bit secretive sometimes about things, though they have been announcing when they're doing core updates. So that's been really beneficial from an SEO standpoint. We also internally follow a lot of SEO experts, not only to get the sort of the latest about what's going on at Google, but also just in the SEO space in general. And so because of that, we know that EAT is not something that every site owner really needs to heavily focus on, but we know it matters for sites that are considered YMYL. And what that means is your money or your life. So these are sites that Google considers impacting somebody's wealth, health, or happiness. So when you are getting a search result, they want to deliver the relevant information, but they also want to make sure that that information is accurate or correct, especially if it has the potential to impact somebody's well-being. So some verticals that this affects is law, finance, medical and health. Even e-commerce sites are considered YMYL because they accept credit card information.
Yeah. So we really know that it matters, but then people are probably thinking, well, okay, what do I do about this? And the thing is, you have to have high quality content, and it has to be written by authoritative experts. And it's not enough for you to say that you're an expert. You actually have to be able to prove it to Google, because Google is smart enough to know that just because I put the word trusted or authority or something on that person's bio page does not mean that they are actually a trusted authority. So Ivana, how can people prove to Google that they are an authority in the space in which they operate?
Yes, one of the first things that you can do when trying to sort of prove you're an expert or authority in a space or a topic is conduct good keyword research. So you want to find out what your audience is searching for and try to understand behind the intent behind those keywords, and then using that to develop topical focuses with quality content that's refreshed on a regular basis. And then include author names and on-site bios. Eventually, it's helpful if your content is widely shared in sort of a genuine, consistent way in social media. And also that you're getting backlinks from relevant industry or niche sites that have high domain authority. So it can't be just any random site that's low quality or spammy. That's not really going to add any value.
Yeah. It's also really important to stay on top of trends in your industry. You know, you mentioned the importance of keyword research, and we've been using Google Trends a lot to help us figure out which keywords matter right now, because that does change over time. And you need to make sure that you're searching for the keywords that the people that you're targeting are using, not necessarily the ones you want them to use. So a great example of this is I was doing some research a couple of weeks ago for somebody and discovered the word contactless is trending right now. So you need to remember that people might be approaching their research in a completely new way, or maybe they have an entirely new need that you or your company or your product are able to fill. So it's important to pay attention to search data, and it's important to pay attention to trends so that you're ready to meet people where they are at.
The other thing to remember too is that you need to continue to maintain and update your site frequently. So when we're talking about EAT, it's not a replacement for technical SEO or auditing or any other SEO strategies that you may be implementing. All of the good traditional SEO strategies that you're executing or actually need to be executed in order for your EAT efforts to be successful. So internally, we always like to say you can't do SEO to a broken site, and that same, it applies when you're talking about EAT too. So it's not going to work if you have a site that has a lot of technical issues or slow load time, or you have issues with rendering content, etc.
Yeah. You know, it's so important to have a well-run site. Otherwise, you can write content all day long and it's really not going to help all that much.
Yeah.
Well, beyond SEO, another question that this report really talked about was the new way that B2B business is sold. So this was a global survey, and there were a lot of US companies, though, that participated. And among those, only 18% of the companies that were part of this survey concentrated on using their website in tandem with their sales force. So they asked them, what did you do? And a lot of people were switching to more of a webinar or online conference call type business model along with their sales force. But then they also asked them, how did you think this worked in terms of the way things used to be versus the way they are now? And when they asked those same executives how their new sales model was working, the companies that had the lowest level of executives who thought that the strategy was less effective than what they were doing before were the ones who focused on using their website in tandem with their business force. And they had the second highest percentage of executives who thought it was more effective. Ironically, the people who focused on using the webinars felt that their strategies were less effective in a larger number than the people who use their website, but more people switched to that model. So it's really important to remember that your website can do a lot to help support your sales force, because Google's been talking about this for a long time and releasing statistics, but now it's anywhere between 60 to 75% of the way down the sales funnel before someone tells you who they are. And that is in the B2B world. So people do independent online research for B2B purchases.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how people's personal online experiences or behavior has sort of transferred into the B2B space lately, right? So we know that how people shop online already, we just not doing the same thing at work, I guess. So it's like consumerization of the B2B buying experience. So you're not only competing with who you think your traditional competitors are anymore, you're competing with sort of every purchasing experience someone may have had in their cycle, whether it's personal or professional.
Right, because we see things we like and we want to have that same experience everywhere we go online. And, you know, customers just expect that you should be able to provide that to them. You know, the same report showed that right now, at least 90% of B2B sales are happening using some sort of a virtual sales model. Now, obviously, some of that is going to shift back as we all start to return to work. But it's important to remember that not every business is coming back at the same pace, and that a lot of experts are predicting that we may go into rolling closures again next fall. And if nothing else, because people like what they like and expect what they expect, some of these behaviors that we've developed working at home are going to stick around whether we want them to or not. So really, if your business wasn't ready to sell online, you need to get there, and you need to get there fast. And it's not necessarily e-commerce with a shopping cart. In the B2B world, an online sale could be something like inbound marketing, which we have seen at Trivera to be the most effective way for B2B companies to develop relationships with their prospective buyers. In fact, it's so important to us that we actually have 2 Tip Tuesdays and a webinar on this topic. So, and they're new. So if you are interested in learning more about them, check them out, because they take current trends totally into account. So that is it for today's conversation. But Ivana, I really appreciate you joining me to lend that SEO perspective to this McKinsey report. So thanks a lot, and bye.
Thanks, bye.